Picture this, the first humans huddled around a fire and one of them stands to speak, not to claim the land, but to offer it, to share it. What would our world look like now, if the first step we took was toward each other? Dawn breaks over the East African savanna, 200,000 years ago. Two bands of early humans approach the same watering hole. In our timeline, this moment sparked the first territorial conflict. Stones were thrown, blood was shed, the pattern was set. This land is mine, that river belongs to us, those hunting grounds are ours alone. But what if that first encounter had gone differently? Every place that provided shelter became shared space, not owned territory. When other bands arrived at these welcome stones, they added their own contributions. A group from the northern hills shared their knowledge of which berries stayed fresh longest. Coastal people taught inland dwellers how to preserve fish. Desert nomads revealed which stars guided travelers through the night. The revolution wasn't in the stones themselves, it was in what they represented, the radical idea that abundant land could support abundant people when shared instead of hoarded. As these peaceful bands spread across Africa and beyond, they carried their revolutionary idea with them. Territory exists to support life, not to exclude it. When they crossed into the Middle East, they didn't conquer the land, they joined the people already living there. The Neanderthals they encountered became partners, not victims. Instead of driving them to extinction through territorial competition, our ancestors shared hunting techniques and received knowledge of cold weather survival in return. Children played together while adults combined their different strengths. The result wasn't replacement, but enrichment. Young Mika, descendant of those first water sharers, inherits a world where innovation accelerates through cooperation. When her people discover that certain seeds produce better crops, they don't keep the secret to gain advantage over neighbors. Instead, they send runners to share the discovery with every community within 100 miles. The results compound generation after generation. Agricultural techniques that, in our competitive timeline, took centuries to spread, reach every farmer within just a few years. Population grows not through conquest of new territory, but through more efficient use of shared land. Villages become towns, towns become cities, but the foundational principle remains: abundance shared is abundance multiplied. By 10,000 years ago, these peaceful peoples have created something unprecedented: knowledge rivers that flow between communities like trade routes. A medical discovery in the Fertile Crescent reaches healers in India within months. An innovation in tool-making from Northern Europe appears in African workshops the next season. The Jomon people of Japan exemplify this cooperative approach. For 10,000 years they live in circular villages where every house faces inward toward shared space. They develop pottery techniques so sophisticated that modern ceramicists study them in art schools. But most remarkably, they do it all without ever fighting a territorial war. Violence rates stay below 2% because conflict over territory simply never develops. Instead of building walls to keep others out, they create stone circles to welcome visitors in. These aren't fortifications but celebration spaces where different bands gather to share stories, trade goods, and arrange marriages that strengthen bonds between communities. Elder Takeshi passes down the ancient wisdom to his grandchildren. The land doesn't belong to us, we belong to the land. And the land is big enough for everyone when we share instead of steal. Without energy wasted on territorial conflicts, human development accelerates at breathtaking speed. The metallurgy that in our timeline created weapons creates better plows, more precise tools, and beautiful artwork. The strategic thinking that might have planned battles instead plans massive cooperative projects, irrigation systems that span continents, and trade networks that connect every community on Earth. By 5,000 years ago, when our timeline shows the first Bronze Age wars over territory, cooperative humanity has achieved something remarkable. They've mapped migration patterns of animals across entire continents, allowing sustainable hunting without depleting any region. They've developed transportation systems that move people and goods freely between communities thousands of miles apart. Most importantly, they've solved the fundamental problem that drove territorial conflict: resource scarcity. When every community shares its abundance, scarcity becomes impossible. There's always somewhere with surplus to help communities facing shortage. The boom and bust cycles that triggered wars simply don't occur. Chief Amara's descendant, now leader of a confederation of 50 allied bands, watches the sunrise over territories that stretch to the horizon. But she doesn't think in terms of territory anymore. She thinks in terms of community. Every river valley, every mountain pass, every fertile plain supports networks of cooperative villages. Borders exist only in her mind as zones of overlap where different communities share their gifts. The archaeological evidence whispers this alternative across millennia. Catalhoyuk's 1,400 years without territorial conflict. The Harappan cities with their shared public spaces and standardized cooperation systems. The Jomon people's 10,000-year proof that territorial warfare isn't inevitable. These weren't isolated accidents. They were glimpses of the path not taken. They showed us that the first choice by the first watering hole could have echoed differently through every generation that followed. If that decision, not to seize land but to share it, had been made then, we wouldn't need passports today. Borders would be curiosities in history books. Maybe we would have been exploring other planets long ago instead of fighting over this one. The first humans who chose cooperation over conquest didn't just avoid conflict. They discovered something profound. Territory shared becomes territory multiplied. Waterholes become meeting places. Hunting grounds become schools where knowledge flows freely between peoples. The earth itself becomes not a possession to fight over, but a home to celebrate together. That choice is still available. That path still exists. Those stones of welcome are still waiting to be placed.